Hi guys, I'm Brooke and this is Pippa, and if you don't know us, we travel full-time in my 2011 Honda Pilot. We've been living the nomadic lifestyle since the summer of 2020. Since the summer of 2020, we have switched around our living situation a few times while still being nomadic. We started in a Class C RV. We then downsized to my Honda CRV. We then moved into a pop-up camper, and then now we are back in an SUV that is a little bit larger than the initial Honda CRV, and that is just kind of the rigs we've tried out. I have no idea what's for us in the future, but I will say we have only had one notable super scary night, and I am here to tell you that story today. I first want to preface though that this is the only scary story out of over 2.5 years of full-time travel. A lot of the times in my comments, in my questions on other social media of mine, I get asked a lot about, like, am I scared to sleep at night? What's the scariest thing that's ever happened to me? And spoiler alert, this story actually, I was never in danger in this story. So I know maybe I am one of the lucky ones. Maybe I just have really good gut instincts and have left places before things turned scary. But I'm not here to fearmonger. So if you're looking for a fearmongering story, this isn't going to be the one. I really believe that you can live the nomadic lifestyle very safely and can have a really good time doing it. Does that mean I follow zero rules of my own and take zero safety precautions? Absolutely not. Even in the safest cities in the world, I still believe you should lock your front door, and I still follow some safety precautions. I have plenty of videos on my channel about how I handle it and my thoughts on safety, but per year's worth of requests at this point, this is the scariest night I have had while being on the road. So this story actually takes place in October of 2020. It is when I was traveling in the Black Hills of South Dakota. It was very early October, so it had started to turn cold, but wasn't quite there yet. I was waiting to go into Rapid City to get my driver's license changed, and I had a doctor's appointment. So I was outside of Custer, South Dakota, and I was camping at a dispersed campsite called North Pole Road. If you ever want to look it up and you want to go camping there, it's gorgeous there. It's still to this day one of my favorite camping spots, and I have gone back since and not been scared or had anything bad happen. But on this particular weekend of camping, they were calling for snow at the end of the week, and so day by day, little by little, people were kind of leaving the area. I went from being really nice weather to kind of turning crummy, and I was just counting down the days basically to go to my appointments. And so I was, all of a sudden, the last night that I was there completely alone. And that was the first time since I had been on the road that had happened to me, that I was at a dispersed camping spot completely by myself. There are a lot of people who live in that area and live off of that road. So I wasn't like completely alone in the middle of the woods, but I was the only camper there. And I was in my Class C RV at the time. Now, on the back of my Class C, I did not have any like underneath storage. Like some RVs have like those little garage spaces underneath. I didn't have any of that space. So the previous owner had actually put a storage box on the back, and I never left it locked because all that was in there was usually like my trash and my hookups for like my sewer and to be able to dump my tanks and things like that. And I just figured if somebody really wanted to break into that box and pick through my trash and pick through my sewer hoses and stuff, they could go ahead. But in my mind, I was like, one day somebody's gonna think there's tools in there or some sort of like electronics or a skateboard or a bike or like something that, you know, an outdoorsy type item, and they're gonna try to break in that box, and it's gonna like bite me in the butt that I don't like lock it, because they're gonna open it up and try to rifle through everything, and it's just going to be a bunch of trash and sewer things that I kept in trash bags. On this night in particular, it was really cold, so I had been running my heater. I finally got into bed, got all cozy, turned the heater off, and went to bed as normal. It had been a little bit windy, so the RV was rocking a little bit, but in the middle of the night, I woke up to the entire RV shaking back and forth, like felt like an earthquake. But I was in South Dakota, so I knew it wasn't an earthquake, and I could hear something pressing up against the RV and shaking the RV, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually happening. Somebody is trying to jimmy that storage box open, and it felt like they had climbed on top of it and were trying to like rock it open. I know that doesn't make sense, but like in my head, I was half asleep. It like wasn't making sense. And I was like holding my breath. My heart was beating out of my chest because I was trying to listen so hard, but I was so scared because it was like hardcore, like rocking. And if you're not familiar with a Class C, you sleep above the cab. So it would be like, okay, here's where you drive, like where I'm sitting right now, but I would be sleeping above this. And so I tried to walk to the bathroom, which was where I could see out the back window, but it was too dark. I couldn't see anything, and I didn't want to turn any lights on inside the RV while it's still rocking, because I wanted the element of surprise to surprise this person who's trying to break into this box, right? Like, I wanted to be able to jump into the front seat and literally like start driving to like knock them off of the back, or to like get them to run away, or not to like hurt them, but just so I had the advantage, right? So I was trying to be really quiet and like climb down. So I had a like little tapestry kind of blanket where it would cover that opening. And so I really quickly was like, you know what would diffuse the situation? Because it was still going. It was still rocking the whole time, and I could hear what like sounded to me like footsteps. And I was like, you know what would diffuse the situation is if I turned on my headlights. So it was one of those situations where if somebody was standing, say they had like a lookout or like a car was in front, I could see them, but they couldn't look in then and see me, the same way as, you know, like when it's dark outside and you flip on your lights on the inside of your house, it's really hard for you to see out of the windows, but everybody can see in. And so I didn't want that situation to happen. So I reached through the curtain and flipped on my headlights, and expecting to see a pickup truck, teenagers, you know, just something going on, people, you know, standing in front of the RV. And what I saw was about 15 cows. 15 cows. And I, like, my stomach, like, all that adrenaline, like, drained out of my body, because I was like shocked, one, to see an animal, and two, relieved that it wasn't a human person that I was going to have to fight. And I'm standing there with, you know, like, I'm like hunched over, you know, with my hand on the steering wheel, like ready to start the car and like jump into the front. And these cows are just staring into the headlights, and they were scratching their backs and their bodies on the RV still. So I could still feel it rocking. And I flipped on my porch light and I looked outside, and it was just, I was surrounded by cows that were using my RV as a scratching post. That's all that was going on. So of course I like honked my horn a few times and scared them off. And I drove kind of like in a circle to like get them to kind of move out of the way. And I went back to bed. That's the scariest night I've ever had living on the road. I wish I could say a bear has tried to break it. Well, actually, I don't wish I could say, but I wish I had like a better even animal that was trying to break into my RV. But it was cows. I'm sorry. It was cows. So be careful of those cows, because the same thing happened to me this past summer when I was in Wyoming. Same type of situation. I ended up being like the only person there after a bunch of people cleared out after an event, and a bunch of cows used my Honda CRV as like a scratching post in the middle of the night. And let me tell you, waking up to someone like rocking your car is a very different experience than someone like banging on your window or getting woken up by like a loud noise or a door slam or like something like that. It's a very like jarring experience, but once you see that it's a cow, it's pretty, you calm down pretty quickly. But watch out for those cows on public lands. They will like to use your vehicles as a scratching post. On a little bit more serious note of safety, the only thing that truly scares me on the road is now other people via social media. So I've touched on this a few times, but I figured this would be the correct video to tell this story in, and maybe explain with like a little bit more depth of why I do not share my location, why I do not meet up with followers, why I do not trust a lot of people who follow me as much as you guys want to be friends. I have had two very, very serious situations, both with women. I always get asked about men and whatever. In my experience, it's just never been an issue for me. But parasocial relationships are something that a lot of creators talk about. If you don't know what a parasocial relationship is, it's basically when someone watches your content, watches you, follows your social media and starts to interact with you, or even not interact with you at all, and starts to create this kind of relationship with you in their mind, whether that's friendly, grandparently, motherly, sisterly, friendly, whatever, romantic, whatever it is. But they forget that they know everything about the person they're watching, but the person they're watching actually doesn't know who they are at all, right? Because we interact with lots of people and we're usually by ourselves, whereas you are watching us and getting to learn all of that information. So when I was on TikTok in 2021, I was going live a lot. That was my main source of growing my TikTok page and growing my YouTube channel at the time, was live streaming. I was live streaming on TikTok and Twitch, and I had two separate women who had known about my sexual identity, knowing that I also dated women and men, and knew that I could possibly have an interest in, dating on the road and things like that. But because I keep my personal relationships personal, did not know that I was already in a relationship. So throughout this parasocial kind of communication, these two women independently had reached out to me and kind of expressed their interest in dating me, and really caring deeply for me, wanting to meet up with me personally, to take me on a date, and did not take the rejection very well. And at the time, I was dating somebody in a serious way and was not open about it online. And so I think these women possibly thought that I was lying about my relationship status, or didn't understand it since it had a long distance aspect to it, and really doubled down and started to get very scary over email, creating new accounts to create new profiles. I was blocking left and right, and they were trying to find my location, drive out to where I was, come hang out with me, come meet up with me, and was not taking no for an answer. And it happened two separate times, about like 6 months from each other. And to this day, I still don't know if both of these people have ever moved on, or have let it go at all, because I've just continued to block their profiles and their attempts to reach out to me, because they started to get very scary and very overreaching any sort of normal, because they had created this relationship in their head. So when some of you guys comment like, oh, I'm just a Nana from Ohio, like, don't worry about me, come DM me or whatever, like, I don't know if it's Nana from Ohio or if it's one of these two women trying to get back into like my inner circle or like get my attention again. And so honestly, other than the cows, the scariest part of this travel lifestyle has been some of these strangers online who feel like they know me and that feel like they can just insert themselves into my personal life and come find me out where I am. And so I'm pretty strict about not sharing my location and not giving away as much as I can anymore. I used to be much more open on my social channels, and I got burned pretty quickly and twice in a row, like back to back. So I will say that has been one of the scarier aspects of living this lifestyle, but it's definitely not the people in the travel community. It has been people who are strangers online. And so I think that is something to keep in mind when you are sharing online, how much information somebody can actually get about you. And when you're posting your locations and things like that, to always make sure that you're doing it a day or so late or after you've already left an area, because it is something very serious that people don't realize how many people are watching and how many people have access. Even if you feel like you don't have a big following, people are paying attention. So, not to leave that on a negative note, but that is one of the things that scares me the most anymore about being on the road. It's definitely not bears, lions, tigers. It's strangers on the internet. But I hope you at least found my cow story entertaining and maybe learned a little bit about internet safety in that last half. And I'm actually so glad that I don't have any scarier stories to tell you, because I don't want anything bad to happen just for drama on this channel. I like to keep it pretty boring. I like to live a very safe life. So I will see you guys on the next one. Bye!